Up with how I ended up getting diagnosed. So, this segment is going to be called Advocating for Your Health. So, when my doctor wanted me to go get the ultrasound done, and when he saw the test results, he was like, "Okay, Miss Gaines, it's time for you to go see a specialist." And I was like, "Cool, no problem. Okay." And in going to see the specialist, I went in and it wasn't very crowded. So when I got to the cancer doctor, he was very kind. He seemed to listen to everything that I had to say. I told him about my family medical history. I told him that I had just recently got some information about my thyroid. I was on my way to an endocrinologist to get some tests ran. And so he talked. He was like, "So with thyroids, what problems have you been having?" And I discussed the problems that I have been having. No biggie, right? Give them your family history. Is anyone in your family ever been diagnosed with thyroid cancer? No, not that I know of. My mom has had lung cancer. She had brain cancer. Her lymph nodes were infected. My grandmother died from it. I have a cousin that's going through cancer right now. She's been battling for about 8 years. She had a double mastectomy. All these things, right? That would, to me, I'm not in the medical community, but to me, it would have raised the question of ding, ding, ding. Okay, well, maybe, this, that, and the other. And what I have found out in going through this journey is that they don't treat all cancers the same. If you have lung cancer and you have stages of cancer, then they look at that cancer on a certain level. If you have bone cancer, then, oh, well, the bone cancer is worse than lung cancer, but they still equate it in different terms and in different levels. So they treat you accordingly. And so I gave him paperwork. I explained to him, the situation, how I feel about cancer. It's always in the back of my mind because of my grandparents. My parents are first cousin, things to that effect. And so he said, "I don't think you need genetic testing." I said, "Are you sure?" Because to me, I'm not a medical professional, but to me, I would think with a parental having cancer, a first cousin having cancer, a grandparent having cancer, that would be like ding, 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 ding. And he said, no, he said, and I wouldn't even be worried about when you go to the endocrinologist because in order for you to have thyroid cancer, it has to be genetic. Someone in your family has to have had thyroid cancer. And so I said, wow. I said, okay. He said, and then it's very expensive for genetic testing. I said, okay. I said, well, I I advocate for myself. My husband advocates for me. My children advocate for me. I said, and he said, well, let me say this, Miss Gaines. We do have a testing kit that can test you for all forms of cancer. He said, but it's not FDA approved. I said, so that means my insurance won't pay for it, correct? He said, yes. I said, okay. I said, well, because I am nervous about cancer and I'm scared of cancer, the word cancer, all that. I said, what does it cost? Because if I have to save up for it, if this is something that I have to do out of pocket, I'm ready and I'm prepared. Terrence was on the phone and he was like, so how much is it? He said, it's $500. And Terrence was in my ear. He was like, what? And I said, that's it. And he said, yes. He said, now I'm not bragging, guys. I'm not bragging as if though $500 isn't a lot of money. It is. It is to most, to some. But I'm thinking 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, $10,000 for this test, right? And when I said, okay, I'll do it, he said, you'll do it, as if he was surprised. And in that moment, I felt lesser than. I'm a Black woman sitting in a doctor's office with major concerns about my health. I'm not good enough for you to even submit documentation to have me genetically tested. When I've been referred to you for that, my doctor specifically said, I want you to get genetic testing. I'm not good enough for that. But, oh, we have this packet over here that you can pay for out of pocket if you can afford it, to see if you got cancer. And then when I tell you, fine, I'll do it, then you're shocked. It's like, you'll do it? And I was like, yes, $500. I said, that's a drop in the bucket. I was thinking you were going to tell me $10,000, $12,000, $2,000, $3,000, which isn't much for some people. And in the back of my head, I was saying, I'm going to do it. I'm just not going to do it with you. And so for the first time, I understood how people that say they don't listen, they don't take me seriously. He did not hear what I was saying in my concerns. And I felt like, and this is not a bad thing, a welfare recipient or someone that they feel like is on the system, using the system. Now, let me say this. I've been on the system before. I've been a single mother. I've been a young Black woman struggling to raise 4 kids before I got with my husband, trying to figure out how I was going to do it. I had government assistance. I had the food stamps. I didn't have the check. I had the food stamps and the medical until I was able to get on my feet. And then once I got on my feet, I never looked back and went back that way. I think I was on the system maybe a year. It helped me, the programs that it provided, early childhood development, Head Start for my children. So let me say, I'm not putting anybody down that's on the system, but to walk in and to not have let me evaluate you, as opposed to you're all on the same level. Black, poor, ignorant, low IQ, no education. I'm not going to even worry about submitting the paperwork, no matter how much cancer is throughout your family. I don't think you need it. And in that moment, it made me realize that, like, okay, I got to really advocate for my health. So I left. I told him that I would, call back, make an appointment, get the testing and stuff like that. And I really didn't care about it. I'm not going back. I actually reported him because his bedside manner, I felt like he listened, but he didn't hear me. And I just felt like I was treated lesser than. So when I leave there, I have to go to my endocrinologist. I go to my endocrinologist. Oh, that's a white doctor. I go to my endocrinologist, and he is of another nationality other than Black and white. And so he went through my chart. He looked at my history. He pulled me up. He was very attentive. He was in my face. He was intentional about the questions that he asked. And so in that, I felt like, okay, he's listening. He said, well, Miss Gaines, I'm not going to have you do more blood work. You just had that done. He said, but I like to do my own ultrasounds. And I said, great. Okay, fine, no problem. He sends me to the lab, which is in his office. And he says, my nurse practitioner, she performs all of my lab work. Nurse practitioner is white. His assistant that comes in is a young Black girl. When I'm in the ultrasound room preparing for the ultrasound, the Black girl, the Black nurse is like, I don't care what they tell you, do not leave out of this room. The doctor will come in. He's going to speak to you. He wants to review his own test results. Great, no problem. That kind of stuck with me. So when his nurse came in to do the ultrasound, she did not say, do you have, because I have another concern in my neck that has nothing to even do with the thyroid cancer. And that's later on down the road as well, guys. And so, man, I get the ultrasound done. The nurse says, everything looks good. Good news. We don't see anything that looks suspicious. You're good to go. So I'm sitting up there. Before I can get off the table, the Black nurse comes in. She said, are you done? I said, yes. She said, do not leave out. I'm going to get the doctor. Stay right here. And it kind of resonated with me. I really didn't, I was like, okay, no problem. Doctor comes in. And the first thing he says is, Miss Gaines, I heard we have good news. My nurse practitioner did your ultrasound. She says everything looks good. And so I think we're on the right path. I said, great. That's what we want to hear. We always want good news. He said, but the way I operate is I still review all of my own tests. I said, okay, great. So we're sitting in there and he's looking and he said, Miss Gaines? I said, yes. He said, I spoke too soon. He said, let me show you something. And he pulls me to the screen. He says, you see this nodule right here? I don't like the way it looks. I want to do a biopsy. And I was like, a biopsy? Now, guys, no, we're 3 days away from our 26th anniversary vow renewal. I had been running around. I had been trying to get things together and now I'm here. So Terrence was on the phone. He was like, I'm coming to where you are. I was like, babe, I'm good. He's gonna do the biopsy in the office. I was like, I gotta in the yes, Miss Guy. I was like, okay, God, dog. So I go through the biopsy process, which is horrible. Sticking a huge needle in your throat and doing all this. He said, so after that, he said, okay, Miss Gaines, if everything is good, it takes sometimes 2 to 4 weeks for test results to come back, depending on the lab. He said, if everything's good, you'll be good. Just come back you won't get anything from us. Just come back at your scheduled program. He said, but if we find something, we'll give you a call back. Cool. No problem. Now, mind you, deep down inside, I know. I really do know that it's cancerous. I've been having this feeling for a long time about cancer. And so we have the vow renewal. We have an excellent time. Y'all seen the video. Those that were there, you heard the story, you shared in our glory. June 3rd, we're getting ready to prepare to go out of town for our vacation with some more couples. We had already been planning it all year just to relax, just to detox and debrief and just relax. On my birthday, June 3rd, the call comes through. And when I see the number, I knew automatically. And the nurse was Miss Gaines. We have some test results that have come back, and the doctor wants to see you immediately. And so then I go into the office, and yeah, it's thyroid cancer. So it shows how the cancer doctor was like, oh, you ain't got no problem. I go 15 minutes up the road. Then the white tech is like, oh, you're fine. Just leave. You're good. What if I had just left? What if I didn't even think about saying, you know, okay, I'm just going to go. If he finds it, he'll call, the degree of concern is just prevalent. And so it made me feel lesser than twice. Cancer doctor, nurse practitioner, ultrasound tech, all that in one day, for people to tell me you're good, you're fine, just for me to come back. And it's thyroid cancer. So we have to advocate for our health. This is the first part of advocating for your health. The second part will be coming. Guys, it's a long journey. Like, share, and subscribe. If you want to follow me in my journey, I will appreciate it. But yeah, this is my journey.